Shalom and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. This is Meditation and Mindfulness with Rabbi Adam Kligfeld.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to those who are in my office here at Temple Beth Am. Good morning to those who are joining on Zoom. Hello, good to have you here. Good morning to those who are watching on Facebook Live, on either my page or the synagogue's page. And hello to anyone who's listening to this at your own time and pace on the Temple Beth Am podcast series. Did we miss last Friday? I don't remember.
No,
We had it last Friday?
We had it last Friday.
A lot has happened since then. I didn't remember if we had done it. So a lot swirling in my mind. I was able to have a really interesting couple of days at a fascinating conference focused on viewpoint diversity and how it's not a thin, flaccid Parav thing to be interested in the viewpoints of people you disagree with, but it's a robust, substantive, philosophical, intellectual, and very Jewish thing. It was really a lot to think about in terms of my own work and my own thinking about others. And I was thinking about meditating in that direction, but that seemed too heady, too concepty. And we've been discussing in this and experimenting in this setting how to toggle back and forth between left brain and right brain. I know we did a very right brain one a few weeks ago, and Deb did not like it. Right, that threshold, that membrane, where the only way we speaking people can think about something is with words, but in a meditative process, we're trying to use the words as like a pole vault over a bar or through a membrane so that we get to beyond words, we get to spirit, we get to being, we get to wonder, we get to bliss. But sometimes we need some of those words to help get us going. So I want to go back into one of those, an idea-based meditation, but not quite as heady as viewpoint diversity, hopefully to get us to a place of deep spiritual wellness, even for a few moments. This is a very brief preview of the teaching I'm doing tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm in the 10:45 to 11:30 a.m. slot, at the new expanded teaching slot we're doing in Pilch Hall. We'll do some singing there as well. And the teaching is going to be jumping off of the binding of Isaac, but it's not really about the binding of Isaac, but we're going to go through the binding of Isaac to get there. And at some point, we're going to be looking at the words of a song whose words were composed in the 20th century, but based on words that were written by the same person who probably wrote Yedid Nefesh in Sfat in the 16th century. Very few people know the original words. You can find it online, but the words that were in the 20th century are rather well known, particularly in certain more Orthodox circles. And those words are Bilvavi Mishkan Evne, in my heart, Bilvavi Mishkan, a sanctuary, a tabernacle, Evne I will build. Lahadar Kavodo, for the beauty of God's glory. We're getting into words that are very hard to translate into English, but I'm going to construct inside my heart a Mishkan. Right? Mishkan is a vocative of the Mishkan in the desert, and it's all going to Lahadar Kavodo, to a beautification of God's kavod, God's glory, God's weight, God's significance. Uve Mishkan Mizbeach Asim, and in that Mishkan, I'm going to place a Mizbeach, an altar. Right? An altar in Jewish speak is a place where sacrifices get done. Right? Lekarne Hodo, hard to translate in English, but dedicated to the kranim, the rays of God's hod, God's splendor. You may remember hod from when we do meditations during the Sphira. Right? So, just to visualize it, in my heart, there's going to be a sanctuary. Inside the sanctuary, there's going to be an altar, all dedicated to the splendiferous rays of God's beauty. Ulener Tamid, and as an eternal light, because every altar needs an eternal light hanging above it. Ekachli, I'm going to take for myself. Et Eish Ha'akedah, the flame, the fire of the abiding of Isaac. Does that mean the fire on which Abraham would have sacrificed his son? Does it mean the spiritual fire that would have pushed him to do so? Is it the residue of the fire that the ram was sacrificed on in its place? All or none? We don't know. It's very compact. But I'm going to take that fire, and that's going to be the Ner Tamid over the altar in the sanctuary in my heart dedicated to God. Ula korban, and what's my sacrifice going to be? Ula korban akrivlo, as a sacrifice, I'm going to sacrifice to God at nafshi hayichida, my unique soul. We could do an hour on that 4-line poem. And it gets to the intensity and the terror of the binding of Isaac. But inside the terror and the intensity of the binding of Isaac is the very, very Jewish idea that every sacrifice and every prayer, which is a replacement for sacrifices, is an intention of giving yourself over to God. It's good that we don't sacrifice people anymore. Like, there's a reason why that story is in the Torah. But anything that we do in place of sacrificing people is supposed to be in place of sacrificing people, in place of totally surrendering ourselves to the higher power. Right? So in the temple times, we did animals and birds and grain and oil, and now we pray. And sometimes when we pray, we don't pray. In fact, most of the times when we pray, we don't pray. And this 4-line idea was, what does it mean, even for 1,000th of a second, to imagine that your prayer, your breath, your being is a korban, a sacrifice, which in Hebrew means a drawing close to the beyond, to the Holy One, to the beauty of the transcendent. So I know that's wordy too and heady too, but I want to narrow it in on, I sacrifice myself to you, God. I offer myself to you. While I'm doing so, I barely exist. I'll come back to me. But in this moment of fusion and union, I do not exist separate from you. It'd be nice to experience that occasionally. So with that in mind, I invite you to close your eyes. And generate a nice, straight, dignified spine. And let everything else drop and fall, including your jaw, the muscles around your eyes, your big muscle groups and your tiny muscle fibers. Let them release and slacken and descend. Breathe from your belly, not from your chest. Draw each breath from the bottom of your sternum and locate the air as it arrives to that place, and release it from there as well. We often breathe at just a small percentage of our lung capacity. Why do we deprive our bodies of that most precious of nutrients? We walk this world as a being, as a body. You see yourself walking and being in all sorts of places, including in this building or in any synagogue within which there is a sanctuary, in the center of which there is an altar of sorts, might be called the bima, the place where the most precious things are offered, above which is a ner tamid. It's all physical, designed by an architect, and pretty. But imagine you are in that sanctuary. But it doesn't matter where you are, because inside you, in your heart, you have a sanctuary. And within that sanctuary, there's an altar dedicated to the One. And illuminating the altar is the fire of Abraham and Isaac and the binding. And on this altar, your sacrifice is you. At the precipice of any sacrifice, there is fear. What will it be like to give this up? And there is awe. What could it feel like to surrender? At nafshi hayichida, my unique, singular, and individual soul. When you sacrifice something, you don't get it back. But what do you receive when you offer this up? What do you receive when you sacrifice part of you on this altar, in this sanctuary, in your heart, dedicated to the Holy One? ובמשכן מזבח אשים לקרני הודו בלבד במשכן אבנה להדר כבודו ובמשכן מזבח אשים לקרני הודו ולעיני תמיד אקח לי את שער כדאי ולקורבן אקריב לו את נפשי היחידה ולנר תמיד אקח לי את שער כדאי ולקורבן אקריב לו את נפשי היחידה. Ready? You can open your eyes. See how much of you is left or how much more of you there is after the sacrifice. And we'll say the closing meditation prayer together, which will pass out in the room, and I'll share on the screen as well. We say this 3 times. May we and all beings have happiness in the causes of happiness. May we all be free of suffering in the causes of suffering. May we all experience true happiness that has no taint of suffering. May we live in great equanimity, free from burning attachment to loved ones and contempt for others, but rather with compassion for all. May we and all beings have happiness in the causes of happiness. May we all be free of suffering in the causes of suffering. May we all experience true happiness that has no taint of suffering. May we live in great equanimity, free from burdening attachment to loved ones and contempt for others, but rather with compassion for all. May we and all beings have happiness in the causes of happiness. May we all be free of suffering in the causes of suffering. May we all experience true happiness that has no taint of suffering. May we live in great equanimity, free from burdening attachment to loved ones and contempt for others, but rather with compassion for all. Wish you all a shalom, namaste, Shabbat shalom. Maybe I'll study with some of you tomorrow. And have a good day.
You have been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast site or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about Temple Beth Am Los Angeles, go to tbala.org.